All right, hey folks, Jesse here. Welcome to another Q&A video. I actually got some really good questions once again right after I posted that last video, so I'm just going to keep this going. Also, I wanted to add, if you want to book a charter with me, just go to my website, southernreels.com. And also be sure to check out on that website, southernreels.com, my recommended gear listing. I just actually added the bull drum section to it a couple days ago with affiliate links to purchase any of these items, which would give me a kickback, would really help my channel out. So please check it out, southernreels.com. All right, so just to jump right into the Q&A video on this rainy Memorial Day weekend. First question I want to tackle here, let me see, where is it? Oh, this is actually a good one. Thomas asked me, if I live in Carolina, how come I'm always fishing in Virginia Beach waters? He said he lives in VA and he wishes that he could get down here to North Carolina to fish. That's actually a really good question. Where I live is a bit unique. I'm in Camden, so I'm only about 20 minutes from the Virginia line if you're going up 17. It's actually quicker for me to get to like Lynn Haven Inlet, Rudy Inlet, and places like that than it is for me to drive, all the way down to the Oregon Inlet, which would be probably the first place that I would be interested in fishing, is the Outer Banks area and down around the inlets. That's one of the big deciding factors. It takes me about an hour and 30 minutes depending on traffic to get down to the Oregon Inlet. And on top of that, it's actually a really dangerous place to fish. The currents there are really focused and really rough around that inlet, and there's been quite a few people in kayaks that have gotten rescued by the Coast Guard that have gone out in the wrong type of conditions. But there's plenty of backwater to fish as well, all through North Carolina, and I have done quite a bit of fishing down there with friends and stuff. My biggest thing about that is, honestly, I'm a structure fisherman. It's how I know how to fish, and I like fishing around bridges and rocks and pilings and any type of structure, because that holds fish. And that's the type of fishing I'm accustomed to. Down in North Carolina, there's just all these huge marsh flats, wide open waters, miles and hundreds of miles really of marsh, shallow waters that you can fish. And there's actually some really great fishing in those areas, but it's just something that I haven't really done that much, and I guess I should. It would definitely expand my abilities. So really, that's probably the biggest reason why, is I actually started down in North Carolina waters years ago, like in 2015 when I first got a kayak. I really didn't do that great. And of course, I really didn't know what I was doing either. And my first trip to Virginia was to the HRBT back in 2017, I think it was. And I caught so many fish out there that day, I was just sold. And immediately went to Lynn Haven Inlet the following couple weekends and just caught more fish than I could have ever dreamed of catching down in Carolina. So that was probably the sealing deal for me of why I fish the Chesapeake Bay area the most. On top of that, the currents are a lot stronger up there. The inlets are the water is constantly moving in and out, and that helps the fishery. The same down around the Oregon Inlet, but as you get farther inland away from the inlets, it's such a big body of backwater that we have here and very small inlets. We don't get very much tidal range, and that really does affect the fishing. Like where I am, actually 3 miles down the road is the Pasquotank River, and not far past that is the Albemarle Sound. We don't have tides here at all. Everything here is wind-driven tides, and it's so much of an expansive area out there to fish. And those fish could be anywhere because there's not much structure. So that's pretty much my long answer to why I always fish in Virginia. I just know the water's better, more tidal flow, more structure. That's pretty much it. So anyway, hope that answered your question. All right, second question here. Let me see. This is a good one. Can I do a video explaining how LiveScope has helped or hurt me with inshore fishing, and if it's worth the investment? Hands down, if you can afford it, buy it and get the Garmin set up. Humminbird and Lawrence, they have setups, but they're just not on par with Garmin. Garmin is at least a couple years ahead of them in the technology. And just as soon as the others catch up a little bit, Garmin slaps something new out, which they're probably not going to drop anything this year, but I'm pretty sure next year they'll have even another upgrade. As far as how it's helped, oh my God, I can't even explain. Literally being able to drive along the bridge and shoot 100 feet off the boat and scan pilings as I'm going by and seeing what's there, that's just breathtaking. I mean, and it's not just a still image. You're watching a live sonar feed, a fish literally swimming around, that you can sit there and point it at it and it still stays live. Unlike traditional imaging, side imaging, down imaging, regular traditional sonar, you have to be moving to get that still picture that it gives you. Basically, it's just the past of everything that you've driven by. And when you stop, that image stops as well, and it almost becomes unreadable. Live scope, you can stop and just point it right at the pilot and literally see everything happening in real time. It's phenomenal. I've gotten so good at it, I can pretty much tell you the species of fish by the feed that I'm seeing on the sonar. That's of course out in the bay in the deeper waters. For flounder fishing though, like bottom fishing, it really doesn't help much. You can't see the fish because they blend in with the bottom. But what it does help with is locating the edges of structure, like where the rocks are meeting the sand out there. It helps you better identify those and position the boat and fish the areas a little more effectively, to where that's a little more difficult to do with, you know, traditional sonar type things because of just the still image that it gives you. Now, inshore fishing, the biggest drawback to live scope when it first came out was it only had forward mode and down mode, and it didn't work very well in shallow water, anything, you know, under 10 foot. It was just a very noisy image if you shot it out much past, you know, 20 or 30 feet. When they dropped perspective mode and gave you that ability to turn that beam from shooting like this to turning it where it's shooting sideways like that, that was a game changer for the whole system. And it's taught me so much of, like, when I'm up in, say, a shallow flat fishing for drum or trout, I can shoot 100, 120 foot out, you know, and you've got that arc of that beam that I think it's like 120 degrees or something, I'm not sure about that, that you see on your screen. And you can literally see the schools of fish or individual fish out there swimming around the boat. In some sense, you're almost sight casting them at that point. But the biggest thing that it has taught me is how much noise affects fishing when you're out there pulling up in that shallow flat, you know, a foot, 2 foot of water, and watching those fish react to you just hitting your trolling motor on the lowest speed setting just to move the boat a little bit, and you can literally see them swimming away from you. It's amazing to think that that little bit of noise, of course noise travels very well through water, pushes those fish away from you like that. And if you got the radio playing, that's a definite no-no. Pumps running, anything in the boat making noise drives those fish right away from you. And I never really thought they were that tuned to it before, but you can literally see that on the live scope. That's where, like, having an ability to power pole what I have on my boat, I will pull up in these flats, power pole down, and sit there and just talk with my buddy, whoever's with me, real quiet for 10 minutes or so, and watch the sonar. And you can literally watch the fish coming back within range of you. And I've had them literally swimming around the boat before because they get kind of used to it be there. If you're quiet enough and you're not running your trolling motor or anything like that, the fish, they'll come right back, and they're much easier to catch that way. Yeah, it has really taught me a lot about how sensitive fish are to disturbances. And it's funny because I've seen boats, you know, come flying up into a flat, pushing a massive wake up on shore, radio blaring, toss an anchor in the water, sit there and fish, and everybody's laughing and everything, and then wondering why they haven't caught anything, because any fish that were there were long gone at that point. So being able to actually see that happen live on the sonar, that's a game changer. Let me see if I can get another question in here. Oh, just one gentleman asked, you know, about future videos, about making video content with clients, you know, while I'm out doing charters. You know, some would probably like it, some wouldn't. And I have thought about that, and I think this year I may do select videos and just ask the people on the boat and have them sign a waiver, because I do have to have a waiver for that, of whether or not they mind me filming the trip and sharing it on YouTube. I don't want to do it all the time because a lot of my trips is the same fishing over and over again. I think what I'll save it for is, you know, if I have a particularly vibrant clientele that it's just going to make a really good energetic video, or if we run into a situation that I think is definitely worth sharing, like last year when I had my clients out and on the way back in we found that massive school of bull drum on the surface in the middle of the bay, which I've heard of it, but I've never seen that before. So yeah, I probably will do some just to help keep content coming out this year, just so you know. So that's the answer to that question. And I think I have one more here. Hold on, where is it? Oh, this is another sonar question. Mark asked, he noticed that when he's fishing and using his side scan that you have to be moving, and this is just one of those things of understanding of how sonar actually works, and that if you stop moving image wise it's pretty much useless. And he was curious if live scope solves that. So of course the way traditional, like I said earlier, traditional sonar works is you're getting a still picture and the history of all those pictures of whatever you're pedaling or moving past, and once you stop, you're getting a still image of the same spot over and over, which turns into almost an unreadable blur on the screen. And that is how most traditional sonars are going to work, just because of how they're set up. And yes, LiveScope does solve that, because instead of just getting a bunch of still pictures and seeing the history of them, basically a history of everything you've passed over, the LiveScope is actually giving you a live view of whatever it's pointing at. So if you point it in perspective mode, shooting for shallow water up on a flat, you can literally point it around and see all the structures and tires and stumps and fish and everything all around you in real time, to where that doesn't work like that with any other sonar system. Of course, Humminbird and Lowrance's stuff will do the same thing. It's just not as clear as what Garmin has at this point. So that's the situation of what's going on there. It's just how sonar technology up to this point has worked, and why the new live scan systems are such a huge groundbreaker moving forward. It's almost questionable, because it's making it really easy to find and locate fish now. And this is actually another subject that I touched on in a video. People wondering whether or not this technology is going to hurt the fisheries. And it all comes down to user responsibility. That's the whole thing. It's definitely educating fishermen, teaching people, because you're actually seeing behaviors of fish live on the screen now, and it makes it much easier to catch them. But it will only negatively impact the fishery if people abuse it and don't respect the fishery that they're fishing in. And that's why I've always been so big on catch and release, keep what you can eat fresh, and think long term about what's going to happen to this fishery if all of these fishermen are going out, catching their limits every single day, coming back in. Eventually it's just not going to be there anymore. I mean, it's already happened to the striped bass, it's already happened to weak fish. It comes down to the person behind the sonar, is what I'm saying. You have to understand that everybody has their own little bit of responsibility in conservation and protecting the sport, so our kids and grandkids can enjoy it one day. So anyway, that's it for this video. Once again, please go to southernreels.com, check it out for my charters if you're interested, and also my recommended fishing gear. I will be updating that list constantly. And it looks like these winds and all are finally going to move out Wednesday of this week, and I'm hoping that's the case, and things go ahead and kind of settle down so we can hit that summer fishing season. So anyway, peace out. I'll see y'all soon. Thanks.